Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. We are super excited to have our guest here today. Yes, Philip A. Greenberg, attorney at law from New York City, who's been our legal professional of the year here. Excited to see him in person on the Zoom show, let alone the podcast, the man of the hour. Philip, welcome. How are you today?
I'm good. More importantly, how are you, Jill?
I'm doing okay. Thank you. But better, I'm just so happy I get to see you today for this is our first Zoom. So you get
Yeah,
to make face-to-face contact, which I think is more important. And we are so excited about this. So you're in your office,
yes.
New York
Well,
City.
actually, I'm in my conference room in my office.
Okay. Okay. How's work
We have,
going today
yeah,
for you?
we have the law books in the background to make it look more legal. But of course, in the 21st century, we don't use law books. We
I
do
was
it.
just going to say, is that all a facade? Are they like cut off half books or?
No, actually, these are real books, but this is like apropos to nothing. But way back when, the only kid in because I came up in a poor neighborhood, the only building that had an elevator, not only had an elevator, but it had a bookcase, except that all it was the outside of the books. And in fact, people used to put garbage behind it because there were really no books there. But that was as close as we had to a luxury building.
Oh my goodness. Well, for those new timers out there, could you share a little about what you do as an attorney for all these years? I mean, helping people beyond belief. And yeah, I just love him, talking to him, his energy, and he's a good person, let alone an amazing husband and great at what he does.
But
Very,
that shows you haven't been speaking to my wife lately.
oh no,
No,
no.
no, in private, I think she would tell you I'm a really good husband, but she wouldn't want that known for public consumption. So yes, I've been a lawyer for over 49 years. Actually, I'm from PR people tell me to kind of downplay the 49 years because people might be afraid that I'm too old to to represent them. And everything is relative.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so I was born and raised in Brooklyn, in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. I don't know how many of your listeners and watchers are from New York City, but Flatbush, at least when I was growing up, was a real come as you were party. And Erasmus Hall High School, corner of Church and Flatbush, where a lot of famous people, I'm not claiming I'm one of them, came out of, for instance, Barbara Streisand. I had the same music teacher as Barbara Streisand,
Oh
and
wow.
who claimed that he was the one who taught her how to sing. And again, there was a long line of famous people who came out of Erasmus. I then went to Brooklyn College. So for those of you who know the players there, so of course I commuted to high school and I commuted to college. And as far as I know, still is no dorm at Brooklyn College. And then I got into NYU Law School. And actually, for the first um, semester plus, I was even a commuter at law school. I traveled from Brooklyn to Manhattan, but at some point, I was able to get into the law school dorm, and it was a lot easier to just cross the street to get to law school as opposed to taking 1 hour subway ride. Phew. And then I became a lawyer. I passed the New York bar the first time, which, by the way, for those of you who haven't taken the New York bar, it's one of the most difficult bars, or possibly the most difficult bar in the United States. I don't know if you recall, Jill, but JFK Jr., President John
He
F.
failed it, didn't he? A few
He failed.
times?
He didn't pass till his third time.
Got
Um,
it.
and however, he did, well, he's deceased now, of course, but he shared the same alma mater as me at NYU Law School.
Oh,
Uh, so I passed the bar, and then that was 1973. Fast forward, if I start to bore you, I'll change the subject.
never.
I'll tell you about my childhood in Flatbush. Believe me, it was not boring. Anyway, so fast forward, that was 1973. Start practicing law. At some point, I realized I also needed to become a member of the New Jersey bar. And New Jersey doesn't have what they call reciprocity, meaning the fact that I was a member in good standing of the New York Bar for
Hmm.
years didn't cut it in New Jersey. I still had to take the bar exam as though I just gotten out of law school. So
Wow.
there I was, pushing 40 and sitting in my apartment every weekend studying for another bar exam. And I scored a very high score and I passed that first time. So I'm made it to New York, New Jersey, the federal bars, U.S. Supreme Court, yada, yada, yada. Means you have a lot of certificates on your wall, but you still have to do.
Hmm.
That's it. And I've been practicing law. Just a couple of quick parts of my resume. So in another life, Joe, let me see now. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, before you were born. Okay, I know how old you are, Joe. So don't play games.
45. It's okay. I don't mind.
I know. But anyway, before you were born, in another life, I was a successful international lawyer representing Japanese trading companies, and it was really just wonderful. I just can't tell you to be a young lawyer representing multi-billion-dollar internationals. Now, $1 billion to your generation is chump change, Jill, but in those days, multi-billion was a lot of money. So, representing Japanese trading companies, dealing overseas, getting a lot of my directions from Tokyo and Osaka, Japan, even though, by the way, I've never been in Japan. Anyway, it was very exciting, great experience, litigations, did hundreds of contracts. But at some point, I started to transition to matrimonial law. Um, Again, before you were born, Jill, my favorite TV show was Divorce Court. I used to
Hmm.
watch it in the 1950s and 1960s. It was pretended to be a live. There were actors. Actually, the guys, men and women who played lawyers were lawyers in real life, but it was still a script. And the judge Voltaire Perkins was not really a judge.
Hmm.
That was my favorite show. And so I made a pledge to myself that when I become a lawyer, part of my practice is going to be divorce practice. And so at some point in the late 70s or mid 70s, actually, I started dabbling in divorce law. And divorce law just snowboards because um, it's recession proof, it's business cycle proof. People get divorced in good times, bad times, in between times. And while corporations go out of business or get merged and then you lose them as clients or they become too big or too small or whatever, divorce is always there, unfortunately, most unfortunately. So as the years progressed, it became a larger and larger part of my practice. And by the early 1990s, it was majority of my law practice.
By the way, I gotta
Yes,
point out,
that's
you
me.
have, okay, we've talked about a lot of the divorce cases you've done, some of the big, some of the small. But one thing I noticed about you, and I've spoken to other attorneys, I'm not in your field, but you seem very honest, very fair, and you give people the truth. Not saying some attorneys don't give the truth, but you're honest with someone when upon taking a case, what you can do, what you can't do, and I've met plenty of attorneys who say they can do ABC, and then when it comes down to it, they don't do ABC, they do D, E, and F, and it's like what? But I appreciate that. Where did you get your values from? Is it your family who was an inspiration to you to give you this amazing code of ethics, I should say, and yeah, it's something very kind about you.
Well, that's very kind of you. Let's before I give you my background and how I turned out to be and one of I think many honest lawyers, despite our reputation. You are wise beyond your years, Jill, because you're absolutely right. A lot of attorneys are very good at selling themselves. And believe me, it's not just lawyers. I could dump on realtors, I could dump on
Yeah.
doctors and whatever. But where you come in and you say to a lawyer, well, the most important thing to me is that I keep my entire pension. And he said, "Oh yes, we'll be able. You work for it. You don't have to share it with her, and you don't have to worry about that because it's your pension, even though it's a long marriage and whatever, whatever." And then when push comes to shove, the lawyer says, "Well, I didn't quite understand the situation. Actually, you will have to split your pension with your wife." And but of course, by then they're in the middle of the case. However, and I do want to transition back to your question. This is why, um, and hopefully you don't have too many friends who've been divorced, but this is why divorcing clients have a strong tendency, more than any other kind of area of law that I'm aware of, changing lawyers in midstream, even though it's time consuming, impractical, expensive. And I've had a lot of cases where I was the third, fourth, or fifth lawyer for either husband or wife. And by the way, I'm always the last lawyer. Somehow I hold on till the end. Now, to answer your question, I learned my value. I guess I give both my parents credit for that. But even as much, my mother was a magnificent person, but my father, the old Sarge, was really, my mentor. He was absolutely honest, and so was my mother, by the way, but
Mm.
absolutely honest, definitely told it like it is. He didn't have much education. He was a 10th grade dropout. My parents were the most unlikely couple you could get because my father was a poor boy from the Lower East Side of Manhattan. My
Mm.
mother was from a wealthy Tunisian family, and not just from it, that's where she lived, and they met there during World War II. And they fell in love in 1944, and in 1946, after the war, my father sent them. So Sarge was my main man until till the end, and lived to almost 98. It was marbles till the end. Um, and I would speak to him every day. Um,
Aw.
and my mother also lived deep into her 90s, but unfortunately she got Alzheimer's or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I would speak to her every day, and as long as she was able to do it. And so that's really where I got my values from. My parents told it like it is. They were honest. If anything, they were honest to a fault. Um, well, I shouldn't say that. Honest. Well, there are people I've known who were honest to a fault. In other words, overdid it. I wouldn't say my parents overdid it, but they were absolutely God
Mm-hmm.
shooters. And look, I mean, you're a parent yourself, Jill. The values that you get from your parents are overwhelmingly
Yep.
the most important thing. Yes, you have friends, you have teachers, you have schoolmates, you have people you work with, play with, whatever. But the starting point is always go back to. So that's how I got my thought.
Beautiful. And currently, the type of work you're doing, it's not just divorce, right? But a lot, majority of it is. Could you share some of the other aspects of your work? Or this is your show. So what did you want to share for today? I should ask.
Oh no, this is your show, Jill.
No, it's not.
Jill, all I
I
did.
just, I'm like a orchestra conductor. I just let it flow. It's your show.
Yeah, well, careful with the analogies with because I don't let anything go. Um, in a Again, in a prior life, I was planning to be an actor, singer, whatever, because I was fat, I was funny. I'm not fat anymore, as you can see. I haven't been fat for a long time, but anyway, I was fat. I was funny. I had a good singing voice. I was always star in the in the school play.
Wow.
But so I majored actually in music. In the seventh grade, I was actually a dramatic music major until my voice changed, and then that, and among other
Mhm.
reasons, I realized I better become a lawyer at the ripe old age of 12. Um, but here's the point, and then I'll move on. My teacher, who was a music teacher, who, by the way, certainly was a mentor to me and in some ways also changed my life because of the values that he imparted to me. And he made a big, it always seemed like just like you drew an analogy to you being the conductor, that it just seemed like the conductor just goes like this. And, whether he's doing this or not, they're going to keep playing. But he said no. He said the conductor has the hardest part because he has
Yeah.
to know everybody's part. And that's how he fits in. And so he's the most important, at least according to my music teacher. So if you're the conductor, I'm just sitting there playing the violin. Um, so yes, it is in terms of my law practice.
Hmm.
Yes, the line majority of my law practice is matrimonial. Um, Despite what you might think, Jill, divorce is not glamorous. It,
Mm-mm.
it is especially because if a simple case comes along, and this is one of the things my wife wants to kill me for, because if someone comes in and they have a simple marriage, no kids, they, just a couple of bank accounts, they're renting their apartment, so there's no home to divide. I always tell them find a younger, hungrier lawyer. You don't need a seasoned, um, knowledgeable attorney at my level of compensation in order to handle a simple divorce. My wife wants to kill me because she says you always send the simple divorces to others and you only keep the complex ones. Um, so, yes, my main thing is divorce, but it's very stressful. Um, and one of the few good things about divorce is beside the fact that it's, as I say, recession proof, business cycle proof, and so it's always there. Um, it's even COVID proof. Um, is that a lot of times after the divorce is over, since I try to be as close to a full service lawyer as possible, a lot of times those clients continue to be my clients in their business, even I've had so many physicians divorce clients, and sometimes in connection with their medical practice, not doing medical, not doing medical
Yeah.
malpractice, but in terms of their office leases and employment agreements and other aspects of sometimes even a little bit of assistance, although I would usually bring in specialists applying for Medicare benefits for the doctor, not for the patient. So as a result of that, I've done co-op and condo litigations, all types of corporate litigations. Um, I try not to do personal injury cases anymore, like slip and falls and car accidents, but sometimes you can't avoid it. And, I try to send it to other attorneys. And again, here I go again with it. In another
Yeah.
life, I was doing a lot of personal injury also.
Hmm.
But I really dislike doing that. And but again, occasionally I can't avoid it. So basically, every aspect of civil litigation,
Hmm.
even very specialized, except I would bring in an expert like a trademark case. I once settled I had a big federal trademark case, and I brought in trademark counsel because it's a very specialized area. But in terms of the basic, and it was in federal court, the basic civil procedure and drafting papers and whatever, I was the attorney of record, but I did bring in intellectual property attorneys to assist me, and it was a big federal trademark case, and I remember settling it. My kid brother lives in Florida. He's been living in Florida forever. And I settled that federal case standing in my brother's kitchen on Christmas Eve that year.
Mm.
Um, and well, anyway, I mean, that one really stands in my mind. And again, it was certainly outside of my comfort zone being a federal trademark case, but I was still able to run with it. And I was against seasoned federal practice attorneys, and we were able to settle it on Christmas Eve.
Beautiful. All right. By the way, we still have a few minutes left in the show, Philip Greenberg, but I don't think we established how we can contact you if we're interested.
Yeah. Well, thank you. So my website is www.philipagreenberg.com. My email address is lawman, LAWMAN, 802 AOL.com. And my office number is 212-279-4550. And I would certainly love to hear from your listeners today, since we're sort of video your watchers.
What are you
And
working on today? After we get off the show, tell me your schedule.
I'm working on it right now, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
Yeah, until you clicked on. I This is also just like what I just said. This is a spin-off of a horrific divorce. I won't mention names. Well, actually, that certainly does it. Anyone who's been through a bad divorce will tell you that that is not that specific by saying this. But this really was. I came in. I don't even know what number lawyer I was. Maybe I was at least the third lawyer for the husband, but maybe
Wow.
fifth. Yeah, it had gone on for years and years and years. And anyway, as always, I was the last one. And so he's divorced. He's actually doing better, and I'm assisting much better, and I'm assisting him with his business in another state. And I brought in counsel from that state, one of my law fraternity brothers, and we're working on that case together. Again, it's outside New York, but I'm pulling a lot of the strings and heavily involved. But the case I'm working on right now is a New York case, and it also is a spin-off from his divorce case. He's fortunately now divorced. And this is in connection with a company that he dealt with before he was divorced, and we still have ongoing legal disputes with. So I guess you'd call this a corporate dispute, and
Mm.
involves some very tricky factual and legal issues. And that's why if there was going to be 2 minutes that I was waiting for you, I was going to keep working on these papers, because they're
Ah,
they're due. Today's Thursday. They're due on Wednesday, and that may 6 days may seem like a lot, but I have a remote court appearance on Tuesday. I have to start preparing for a big divorce trial that starts a week from Monday. And you know what? I have a whole bunch of other clients that couldn't care less about any of these cases. They just want me to take care of their problems today. So 6 days is not a long time. And by the way, weekends mean nothing. I come in almost every Sunday for at least a
no.
day. Yeah.
And no gym today? No time for that, or you did that already?
Oh, are you kidding? I
You
come
get
in.
up at what time?
I get up at 4:45. I walk into the gym at 5:30. I it was months ago that I missed my last day, and that was because it was a I don't want to make this a religious pilgrimage here, but it was the highest of the high holy days. And so that day, instead of going to synagogue, my wife and I dedicated ourselves to the man upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
That was months ago. So yeah, I don't skip days. 7 days a week, 5 days a week at my local gym, and then on weekends we at least we start the day in our house in the Catskills, and I have a man cave, so I'm the only member of my gym in our house, so I have the whole man cave to myself. And every type of barbell, dumbbell, kettlebell, uh, treadmill, bike, uh, Bosu balls, or whatever they call them, medicine balls, or whatever they're calling them these days, and some other contraptions.
Yeah. Well, amazing, amazing work. Do you have any plans? Oh my gosh, we have Thanksgiving coming up. Then Hanukkah's right there, right? So do you take off, or are you one of those workaholics?
So, yeah. So let's see now. I have to be careful what I say,
Oh.
because my wife has been known to see some of my webinars. So let me just say that usually we do Thanksgiving with my wife's family, and I assume it'll be the same this year. And the day after, I do traditionally. It's a tradition I started quite a while ago. My first law firm used to open the day after Thanksgiving, Friday. But my since the early '80s, when I became managing partner of the firm, I decided, you know what, we're going to make a 4-day weekend. So that's actually the only extra day that I take all year. For instance, of course, I didn't take election day this week, and of course, I'm not taking Veterans Day tomorrow. But I do take the 4-day weekend. But I have a home office wherever I go, and it's quite possible I'll be spending most of my waking hours, besides working out, besides enjoying my wife and my dog, working, dictating, researching. So, whew. But yeah, I guess technically I'm taking Thanksgiving Day off.
All right. Well, enjoy. Pleasure having you back here on the show. Great to see you on the Zoom side of things as well.
Cool.
Philip Greenberg, looking forward to next time we connect again. Okay. Until we meet, I'm coming by. All right.
Oh, can't wait, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a fantastic day. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.